deeply into the dynamic that my students themselves were creating by asking questions and finding out who they were in context with people who seemingly had nothing. And those conclusions we kind of brought to a focal point in dialogue with Tallery and Jeff just 7 days ago. So 7 days ago, we decided that that would probably be a great thing to present today. And I've had 7 days to make this. I normally know what it is that I'm saying well enough that I can just have it and animate it in a much more high voltage way. I do today have to read, but I have, for the past 7 days, written, I think, one of the most meaningful essays to myself about what it is that I've been doing and learning from both my students and my friends and my family who are the refugees about how it is that we have to locate ourselves in other lives and hope that those lives become located in ours. And so if you walk with me through this, because a lot of the slides I do have to read, you're welcome to read along with me. I'll make the PowerPoint. This doesn't have any material that I'm afraid is copyrighted or anything, so anyone's welcome to have it afterwards if you'd like to. And if not, there's a sentiment that we will all get at the end, and it's really easy to remember, is that we've got to fall in love with the people that we work with and teach about, and I think that goes without saying in all of our classrooms. This PowerPoint just serves as a really good reminder to that. So here we are, we're all members of the Bearing Witness program. For the past few years, we've been stepping into the lives and stories of Holocaust survivors. And we've always had a guiding principle that in everything that we do, in all that we teach, we're attempting to honor and dignify the lives, the suffering, the stories of the people that we're meeting. It's only natural that we take the wisdom and the lessons that we've learned and attempt to apply it to other people that are in the crosshairs of catastrophe. And unfortunately, in today's world, there's no shortage of those people. But when we do, we hope that we're learning wholeheartedly to apply what we've learned about teaching Holocaust to teaching about anyone who is in pain or suffering. And that is that in all that we do, in all that we teach, we have to bring our students to a place where they're honoring and dignifying the subject matter, which is human lives. So we want to remind everybody that in everything that we do, we hope that we're finding humanity and a shared humanity. And our goal in the Bearing Witness program, I love, summarized at the bottom there, is to remember, to dignify, to honor, and especially to hold these people in our hearts. This year, the subject matter at hand is refugees. We've broadened our scope. We are in the midst of an unprecedented upheaval in terms of people. Not since World War II have there been so many individuals who have faced persecution, warfare, murder. There are 65+ million people in the world who have had to literally run for their lives. 65 million people are now considered refugees by the UNHCR, the United Nations High Commissioner on Refugees. And they're ending up here in our classrooms. They're ending up in our Krogers. They're sitting at our bus stops, and we're driving by them, or meeting them, or smiling them, or ignoring them. Whatever it is that we're doing, we're all involved in this dynamic of trying to identify who are these people. But then there's also this undercurrent that if we really pay attention to the oceans that we're swimming in, we're identifying who we are now. We are re-becoming and rebirthing ourselves in the context of the people that we meet. And the question is, who are we becoming? So as we teach and as we make certain that our students are learning about lessons that we hope, we want to make certain that they're honoring and dignifying and celebrating the refugees' experience also. And the question is, well, how do we do this in our classroom? And if you consider learning to be a journey, then the answer is you have to make the right journey for the students. As educators, we all know that amongst the most powerful journeys that we can take our students on are the ones that cause them to explore their interior spaces, the spaces in which they create and understand and define their own self-identity, and they create and define their sense of connectedness to the human community. That's probably why we all went into teaching. I don't think anyone was so fascinated in their topic that that's all they wanted to be known for is I know numbers or I know facts. we hope to evolve some sort of epiphany in our students. We hope that they are rebirthed. We hope that they can reimagine themselves as more powerful people. And so when we bring students into our classrooms, we hope that we're doing things that allow them to take part in the dynamic of epiphany. We believe that interior journeys are the most important things that we can do. One of the most powerful ways to create these journeys is not by providing students with wisdom which has been derived from that traditional student-teacher relationship. And what is that wisdom? It is taking truth, taking facts, taking things that other people have discerned or discovered, thought out as important, and then telling our students, you need to believe this. This is really important to know. This is really important to be. That is an incredibly valid way to educate our students, but it's not the way that students can fall into themselves and discover who it is that they are. It helps them to discover who others can be and provide them with the context, but that's not the journey of self-discovery that we help our kids go on. One of the most powerful ways to actually create these journeys of self-discovery is by plunging them into the darkness, the instability, and the excitement that paradox can present. Paradox, when you give consideration to paradox, really requires a level of thinking that is rebirthing. It allows you to really question what it is that you hold true. Remember what paradox is? It's seemingly contradictory statements or existences which upon investigation prove to be true. You take a statement which we assume to be true and you state the opposite. And the distance between those creates this chasm, this abyss that students and all of us can fall into. It causes us to give consideration to things that we once accepted. For instance, before we work with refugees, we truly do talk about the paradox of who we believe we are and who we believe they are first. We talk about our prejudices before we step foot in Catholic Charities or Kentucky Refugee Ministries. And before we practice with a paradox that is that weighty, we play with paradox. For instance, my kids they freak when they see this one. What is the assumption we make? That social media connects us all, right? That it is this, it's the roots that bind us together. And then I'll throw this up on the board. Social media disconnects us all. And I'll tell them that's a paradox, isn't it? What's a paradox? Well, you thought it connected you. Think deeply. And then they begin to explore how it is that when they're staring at their screen, they're not connected to anyone else. And how their families fall away from them at dinner time because they're playing Fortnite. Have you all played Fortnite? Don't we defend anybody?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm so tired of it.
oh God, okay. Fortnite can be good if you play. I don't know. And then the kids also love this when words are spoken by the listener. Again, there's this truth that you provide them with. Yes, words are spoken, but the opposite is by the listener. We all know that words are just auditory symbols, and someone can say anything to us, but as they cascade their way through our own lives, we attach our own experiences to what is said. And suddenly, the words that you say to me only have the meaning that I can provide. And those are two powerful paradoxes. My students get so excited, the volume level goes up, and my hair stands on end. Why? Because they're thinking. They're using critical thinking skills. They're going into those places that we hope our students go, exercising those skills, flexing those cognitive muscles that allows them to become stronger as they give consideration to anything.
Fred, can I just interrupt
Sure.
for a second? And add that the stories that Fred and I chose to share with you were not by accident. There are hundreds of stories we could have told you. The idea of finding refuge in America where you're free to practice your Judaism only to have your tefillin thrown in the garbage is a kind of paradox. What Fred experienced with the colored-only bathroom is a paradox for somebody who finally comes to a place where humanity is valued and how that influenced his life. So these paradoxes are really powerful. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. In the classroom, the paradox content creates a dynamic of cognitive instability in which students are called uniquely to question and explore their preconceptions, their prejudices, their misunderstandings, their darknesses, their inexperiences. They question everything that they once held to be true, and they emerge on the other side often with new truths, which often were previously new to them, and are often completely opposite to what they thought they believed in. What a powerful journey to go on. I always think that no matter what you study paradox, the other side is profound if you can get there because of what it takes to get there. Students question what they know. Again, paradox provides fuel for the fires of critical thinking, and that's something that we're all trying to evolve in the classroom. If you think about great people, poets, artists, activists, prophets, really good teachers, world shakers, all of those people help students to reimagine and reinvent their world because they empower them to question the assumptions that they held and the accepted truths that they had by providing paradox. The parables and stories that are told by religious figures throughout the world often involve paradox because they're constantly asking you to reimagine how it is that you see things, values, and people. It's on journeys such as a paradox journey that students are going to most powerfully explore and learn and practice the skills and strengths that they need to see the lives of others from different perspectives. If you can see the life of someone else from a new and different perspective, if you've pulled back the curtains on who you thought they've been or they can become, then you're really empowering students to do what? To be shape-shifting their world. And that's something that is a profound skill. If we can allow our students to understand that they can completely turn the world upside down, what is it that they can't do as they interface with people who need them? This year, our students have been invited to fall into the lives of refugees. The suffering of the refugees, just like the suffering of the Holocaust survivors, is going to become our text. The pain and the stories of survival, that's going to become the location of the journey of our students. How do we step our students into the lives of the refugees in a fashion that honors and dignifies them? And also, how do we step our students into these lives so that our students understand what an incredible gift it is that they are receiving? And we believe that it's by allowing our students to meet these people, and really anyone who's been marginalized or anyone who's been caught in the crosshairs of prejudice, hatred, indifference, we want our students to meet them in a place that allows our students to really discern and confirm the humanity of the people that they're meeting. There are so many ways to do this. Paradox is just one, but it is a powerful place. In teaching paradox, we always begin with an accepted truth. And you start off with an assumption that's going to resolve itself into something different if you give it a little bit of time and if you give it a little bit of thought. If you think about it, most people's assumptions, the starting place for identity with refugees is they are people who are most often defined by what they don't have. There are people who are defined by their powerlessness. They are people who are defined by what they need from us. And our relationship with them is defined by the power that we have in our abundance and in our power and privilege to do something for them, to heal them. We are frequently motivated by charity. Sometimes we're motivated by pity. But again, that creates this power structure, a hierarchy that actually is insulating us from really meeting them and understanding that their humanity is identical to ours. We become only within that context these powerful healers of broken people, and we don't ever get to understand that they could be members of our own family. So here, after talking to my students and having them coming back to me and saying, I've literally had students, even this year after my students in transitioning from 7th to 8th grade have to do service hours. And they are given a bare minimum, and frequently they come back having gone 10 or 20 times over that. And so I had a student even this year come back and say, I can't believe how poor I am in relationship to the things that the refugees have. And here's the paradox that's important to teach our kids, and it's one that they can fall into themselves. And the paradox is, what if the people who appear to have nothing might also be in possession of some of the greatest and most precious treasures? And what if those who are blessed, what if us, the people who are blessed by power and privilege and abundance, what if we might actually be holding on incredibly tightly to our own poverties and to our own brokenness? What if within those poverties, what if within that brokenness, we're actually desperately in need of healing and refuge ourselves? What if each group had the power to change and to heal and to provide refuge for one another? That would be something amazing, because we would truly need each other. We asked the question, is it possible that both groups, the refugees, the stereotype of the refugee, the stereotype of those who come to help and healing them, what if both groups actually have the power to change one another? And what if by helping our students to discover this wisdom, that we're actually helping them to locate their own humanity and the humanity of the refugees in the exact same place? Hidden within the complexities, hidden within the mysteries of paradox, we believe that the answer is yes. Locating our own lives in others and finding that their lives are located within ours creates this amazing trajectory of learning. It takes the students directly into lessons that underscore our understanding of compassion and empathy. It allows them to build the skills that help them to build community. And it helps them to build the skills that allows them to initiate, sustain, and create relationships with other human beings. Honoring and dignifying the lives and stories of refugees allows us to explore and understand and reimagine our power, our privilege, all the poverties that we possess in a fashion which calls us equally into one another's lives. That hierarchy, that power dynamic that keeps us insulated from one another dissolves itself. We have to create a new power dynamic. And it's one in which the blessings and wisdoms of both groups, both the refugees and us, they work together so that we can heal one another and so that we end up truly needing one another. So how do we do that? We do that by disrupting the way that we traditionally provide wisdom in a classroom, which is by telling you what you need to know or believe or do. And instead we allow our students to search for answers and to search for their very own wisdom by asking questions. Questions that purposely, mindfully allow them to question their own preconceptions and prejudices. Questions which allow them to interrogate their own beliefs about themselves and about others. These are questions that I throw out at my students prior to releasing them into a summer service. I don't ever answer them myself. Anything that is discerned or distilled becomes wisdom that they can own or not, that can be touched by or not. But here are some of the questions we ask. What is power? What is poverty? What does poverty look like? What is treasure? What does it mean to be rich? What does it mean to be strong, courageous, hopeful? What does it mean to be audacious? What does it mean to be resilient, to be joyful? How do you create joy? What does it mean to be a refugee? What does it mean to seek refuge? And who do we become if we can create refuge for others in our homes? Is it possible to create refuge for others elsewhere? Can you create refuge for someone in your mind? Can you create refuge for someone in your heart? And what does that mean? What are the requirements for membership in your family? What does family mean to one another? What is wisdom? Where does it come from? Is wisdom something only people with a degree have? Could you have absolutely no education, and based upon the fact that you've had to run for your life and you did it successfully for 17 years, could you have wisdom that's a true treasure? Who must we become if we're to bear witness to the brokenness of others? How do we bear witness to our own brokenness? And I also throw in there, do we have brokenness? For a lot of my middle school students, it's a question that's hard to answer. And in reality, all of these questions at the beginning in May have absolutely different answers when we come back in August and September. Just by asking them, do you think you'll meet rich people when you meet refugees? In May, it's always rich. We don't have anything. Do you think that you'll meet anybody that will be able to help you this summer? What do you mean? Maybe they don't know. And when they come back, though, that abyss, that distance between these two sets of ideas is frequently bridged by people, only by students, not because they had the answers, but because they had the questions. So I have two programs at my school that we run. One is